Welcome if you're just joining us. This is the France 24 debate. We're talking about Europe being divided over the debt problem. And we're talking about it with, from Berlin, Marcus Kerber of Technische Universität, from Athens, Yanis Varoufakis of Athens University, Ilios Yannakakis, historian and political scientist. Welcome back, and welcome back to Christian Stoffes, president of the Franco-German Analysis Board. How do you say it in English?
Economic Analysis
Economic Analysis Council. Thank you, sir. Before the break, we were discussing one of the points that you mentioned, Christian, was that it's not just for the Germans to pay. On Tuesday, the German finance minister, Wolfgang Schäuble, warning there'd be no aid tranche anymore if international lenders file a negative report on Greece, an allusion to last Friday's curtailed visit to Athens of a so-called troika of EU, IMF, and European Central Bank inspectors. They cut their trip short, asking why has Athens fallen behind schedule and cutting its budget deficit? Well, the Greek finance minister assuring creditors since that the pace of reform is picking up with a big batch of privatizations on the way.
We are completely committed to doing everything that is necessary, both in the structural field and also for taxation. But we have to agree that obviously it is essential to contain the recession.
Yanis Varoufakis, can we take the Greek finance minister at his word?
You can take his word that he's going to slash government spending further. You cannot take his word that he's going to slash the budget deficit. And why is this? Because the government is not in control of the deficit. It's only in control of government spending. The problem now is that Greece is in the clasps of an extremely vicious, savage recession, minus 6%. This year, minus 6% last year. And in the midst of this recession, a government that is slashing government spending is adding to the deleveraging, to the reduction in private sector expenditure. The result is that GDP is falling, taxes will fall. So even though he will be slashing government spending, taxes are going to be reduced at the same time, and therefore the budget deficit, which is an endogenous variable, as we say in economics, not a variable that can be set by the government. The government can set the tax rates and can set government expenditure, but it can do absolutely nothing about containing a budget deficit during a recession. It's a typical case of being caught in a downward spiral, given that it has no capacity to devalue its currency, no capacity to carry out any kind of a boost of the economy. The Greek ship is sinking, and the only thing that the government can do is speed up the rate at which it is sinking.
Ilios Yannakakis, what's your reaction when you see those troika, these missions that are going to Athens?
Yes, you see, it is a lot of problems. First of all, I trust the Greek government. They cannot go very fast.
They've been criticized for dragging their heels on privatizations.
Yes. Because you have a very, very, conflict with the public opinion. Greeks are not French. They go immediately to make very big manifestations.
So the big Communist Party is still in Greece.
The Communist Party is very strong. Very strong.
That's what I say.
Yes. And they are playing with these conflicts. And you don't
that is really not true.
forget that you have a socialist government, not a praktist. Papandreou is a socialist, the Socialist Party. That is the ambiguity of his position.
He's got to contend with public opinion. Yanis Varoufakis, you don't agree?
No, I certainly don't agree. Look, the problem with privatization is that asset prices in Greece have collapsed during a recession. They are going to try to flog off the state lottery, small bank, everything they can which has market value. But market values have fallen precipitously during the recession.
So it's a bad time to sell.
By the end of the year, they will have tried. So when prices are collapsing, privatization cannot yield the kind of figures that have been touted last July or even before that. So it's not a question of willpower. It's a question of hard facts on the ground, market prices and asset prices that have collapsed. Understand what minus 6% means, a second year in succession. Understand what it means when a house that was selling for 300,000 euros last year is now going for 80,000 euros. And try to make money through privatization in order to fund an expanding budget deficit at a time when employment is falling, and therefore both unemployment benefits are going up, but primarily tax payments to the state are being reduced. It's not a question. The Communist Party is utterly insignificant in Greece, except for its aesthetic presence in the odd demonstration in Athens.
Christian Stoffels, I see you shaking your head.
Yeah, the situation would be far worse for Greece if euro was not existing and if there was no bailout mechanism. That situation has happened many times, especially in the recent past. When a country is unable to confront its commitments, there is a strong devaluation, there is a recession during several years, and the population is impoverished by 20–30%. This is what happens. This is what would happen. This is what would happen. This is what would happen. This is what would happen if there were no euro mechanism. Again, it's time for verification. Everybody in Europe, nations, social groups, individuals, they have to clarify their position. Is euro positive or negative? What we have to pay for euro? In a decade, in the past 10 years, we have been living happily with the euro. Now it's time to realize that there is a price to pay. There is a price to pay. Everybody has to pay a price. The Greeks have to pay a price. The Germans have to pay a price. The French have to pay a price. Everybody has to pay a price. It's time for verification. And I am very optimistic. I think that the European public opinion are supporting euro. And they are ready to sacrifices.
Everybody has to pay a price, but solidarity seems in short supply when you look around the Eurozone sometimes. In Finland, Helsinki cutting a side deal whereby they've signed on to a European Stability Fund in exchange for collateral from Athens, guarantees that now other nations want. And paying a call on the Finnish PM on Monday was the president of the European Union. And if this doesn't sound like ringing the alarm bell, I don't know what does. Listen to Herman Van Rompuy.
The credibility of the euro area and of each of its member states is at stake. It is important to keep this in mind when debating domestic issues linked to the decisions that have been taken at the European level.
Marcus Kerber, do you see the euro seriously disintegrating?
Yes, my belief is, and this is the mere observation, in more than 1 year of a permanent euro crisis, the euro rescuers have employed means beyond our dreams, and we have not stabilized at all the eurozone. On the contrary, we have an inflation of bailouts. The markets are still in turmoil, and the credibility of the eurozone is more than at stake. So let us face up to that situation. The agony of the eurozone is making a lot of progress. The euro is in decline, and what we have to prevent is that the euro crisis turns into a disintegration of the whole European project. So from a certain point, you have to have the wisdom. You have to have the wisdom to cut a long story short. I admire one political act of courage. That was the decision by General de Gaulle to stop French commitment in Algeria because he had understood the time was over. I think we have to have the courage, the civil courage, and somebody has to have the leadership. Unfortunately, Frau Merkel doesn't have that leadership to say that the monetary union in the current shape is over and is dead. That those who don't believe that could die with it, because we want to continue the European.
The plane has taken off for 10 years. It's too late to step out or too costly?
No. I don't believe that at all, because the public opinion is more and more turning in Germany against the established party system. If you mentioned recently that the parliamentary opposition in Germany asks for more European transfers, for more subsidies, well, that doesn't reflect at all public opinion. Public opinion is more than ever opposed to the establishment and to the established.
But Marcus Kerber, in that case, how do you, how do you explain that in regional elections, parties like the Greens, who are Europhile, are doing well?
Yes, this is because the people don't any longer know what to vote for. So there is well, I've always called the Green Party a West German pathology, a West German illness. But your observation is quite right. But they are not voting in favor of the Greens because the Greens are in favor of Eurobonds. They're voting in favor of the Greens because this is a fashionable vote if you don't want to vote in favor of one of the big parties. But there is a growing number of people who don't vote at all. And the regional elections we have had in the north of Germany have shown only a poll of 50%, which is extremely annoying for a country where a participation at the polls is far larger. So
let's pick up on that point. I want to pick up on that point, Marcus Kerber, because that's an important point. Ilios Yannakakis, it is true, more and more people feel like they don't have a stake in the system. Not just...
Yes, but
it's not throughout Europe.
But Europe is not in crisis. We are not in decadence. The discourse pessimist is now, how to say it, is the feeling of the journalists, of the newspapers, of some part of some parties, but we are not in decadence. I am very optimist, and I think that Europe is very strong. It is very big, how to say, force in all the situation, economic, demography.
And people are not ready to give that up.
But people are in this situation. You know, after 1989, the fall of the wall, the people lost the, how to say, the bad and the good. They don't know where they are. You have Al-Qaeda, you have the Arab revolutions, you have, they are, how to say, in such a confusion.
So there is an identity crisis. I want to just bring up one final point because we're running a little bit short on time. Germany's chancellor this Wednesday warning that this goes way beyond Greece, and to a certain degree, agreeing with Christian Stoffels, too late to look back, but what comes next could be a heavy lift.
Es zeigt sich eben in einer unglaublichen Schärfe.
It's obvious that it poses a grave issue when the problems of one country endanger the whole currency. In this instance, a country like Greece that only makes up 2% of the gross domestic product of the whole Eurozone. And in the present Lisbon Treaty, there is no mechanism to force those who can't or don't want to adhere to the Pact for Stability and Growth. Therefore, if we are imagining Europe, if we want more Europe, a right Europe, a sustainable Europe, a strong Europe, and more bindingness, changes in the treaty must not be taboo.
Ein Mehr an Verbindlichkeit dafür zu erreichen, meine Damen und Herren.
Changes in the treaty must not be taboo. Christian, in this country, we've got a presidential election coming up. Do you see the Nicolas Sarkozy, the outgoing president, campaigning in favor of changing the Lisbon Treaty at this point?
Obviously, the current crisis will mean institutional reform. The Maastricht Treaty is obsolete. The limit of 3% of budget deficit and 60% of public debt.
But will people vote for it?
We had a time for verification in France with the adoption of the Maastricht Treaty, especially the Gaullist party, nationalist party, was obliged to make a choice. There was a verification, especially between Jacques Chirac and Philippe Séguin. And Europe won. So now we are going to have major reforms in the institution of Europe. We have to abandon some kind of budgetary and fiscal sovereignty. You cannot have a euro without a kind of European economic government. We will have to work again on the treaties in the next few months. And I think it will be a great success for the two major leaders, Merkel and Sarkozy. I want to stress that during all these crises, since 2007, the German-French mutual understanding on cooperation has been exemplary. Both countries have made major compromises against their own principles. Germany has accepted that the European Central Bank prints money like mad. They have accepted, which is specifically forbidden by the treaty, that governments give loans to each other. So we have to rebuild something. And this will be the outcome of the crisis. It will reinforce the European feeling, because there will have been the verification that European people
But to pass the Lisbon Treaty, the one country that put it to a referendum, Ireland, that referendum failed.
And France.
No, France put it before Parliament.
Oh, that's right. No.
It was the last time there was a referendum was for the constitutional reform. I'm talking about the Lisbon Treaty. The Irish were the only ones to put it before a referendum. That referendum failed. They had to redo the referendum. So isn't it very dicey at this point politically to go beyond the Lisbon Treaty?
But the sense of history clearly is for more Europe. This is a sense of history. You can see that in the past half century. This is a sense of history. That doesn't mean that you cannot have accidents from time to time, but the dynamic is there. And again, I said that everybody has to verify its own attachment to Europe, but you have also peer pressure. Look at Finland. They are requesting special collateral guarantee. I don't think they will hold much on this position, because it's so contradictory with the principle of solidarity. There will be a strong peer pressure on them to align on the multilateral solidarity principle.
All right, the glass half full for Christian Stoffels. I want to thank you. I want to thank as well Ilios Yannakakis for joining us, Yanis Varoufakis for joining us from Athens, and Marcus Kerber in Berlin for, once again, a spirited discussion on these crucial weeks and months that we're facing here in Europe. Thank you for being with us here in the France 24 debate. Stay with us. There's more to come in business. That's with Marcus Carlson. You're watching France 24.